Ceux qui vivent dans ce monde irréel mènent des vies hors du commun. Ce charmant jeune homme, par exemple, c'est une ancienne star de la profession.
Moi, je gagnais $1 million par semaine, à peu près 50 millions par an. J'ai acheté beaucoup de voitures, Ferrari, Lamborghini, Rolls-Royce, tout ce qui était possible. Vous savez, j'ai fait des choses vraiment stupides. J'ai acheté des maisons, un yacht de 60 mètres avec un hélicoptère dessus, un yacht Coco Chanel. Je l'ai fait couler celui-là. Je l'ai planté dans une tempête car j'étais complètement drogué. Ma vie n'avait aucun sens. L'argent n'avait aucune importance. Vous savez, c'est parce qu'en fait je ne créais rien. Et quand vous travaillez à Wall Street, tout tourne autour de l'argent.
Here's the bottom line. It's very simple. There are 4 things that you have to do to be wildly successful at anything.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It could be money, relationships, spirituality, in love, in community, contribution, how you feel each day. That's 4 things, not 1,000 things, it's 4.
Yeah.
And I was doing these 4 things at the highest possible level at my firm. And here's the funny part. I didn't even know I was doing them. I was doing what's called an unconscious strategy.
Yeah.
I had stumbled upon this because it made sense to me. And sometimes when you do something really, really well, you don't even know how you do it. When you tie your shoes, you're not thinking how to put the loop over the loop.
Yeah.
You know, it's called being unconsciously competent. And I stumbled upon this, and it was so powerful that there was what's called a good enough factor. If you're doing those 4 things in any aspect of your life, you could even suck at them. But if you do all 4 of them together, you're still going to become wealthy. You're still going to hit whatever it is you're looking to hit. And here's how it starts, okay? The bottom line is this. Most people have goals in life. And we've been brought up to think you got to be goal-oriented. That's the first mistake. Yes, you need goals, but there is something far beyond goals, which is what all successful people have, and that's a vision. It's a vision for the future. See, here's it is. You see things as they are, but not worse than they are.
Yeah.
Which is what a lot of people do.
Yeah.
They say, oh, it's so terrible. They tell themselves this wild story about why they can't take action. And in truth, the story they tell themselves is exactly what holds them back from being successful.
Agreed.
It's that bullshit story that stops them from acting. They're oh, there's so much, the economy, and they play the blame game, they complain, they justify, and it stops them from moving forward. So see things as they are, not worse than they are.
Yep.
And then see them better than they are.
Yep.
And make them that way.
When you say better than that, you mean just look into the future. Like in a year's time, I want it to be like that.
Listen, let's focus on money for a second, because especially this time in the economy, everyone's interested in making more money and securing the future for not just themselves, the families, for the children. And this is important. People say, money doesn't matter. I'm like, oh, so you're broke. Well, if someone tells you they're broke, they never had any money. Because just look at it like this. Just imagine if you said that your wife wasn't that important. How long would she stick around?
Yeah.
Not too long, right? Money's important. Money is not going to make you happy.
No.
But an absence of money could buy you an awful lot of misery. So I look at money as this. It's a problem that needs to be solved.
Yep.
And here's another distinction, which I think everyone should really key into, because this misconception that, in some way money might be evil. Here's the deal. There's no amount of poverty that you can have in your life that can make one other person wealthy.
Agreed.
There's no amount of misery that you can have in your life that can make one other person happy. There's no amount of sickness in your life that can make one other person healthy. So if you want to make the world a happier, healthier, wealthier place, then get as much of those gifts you can for yourself and then spread it around.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line.
I mean, I was thinking that the other day. I was driving along and I thought to myself, if I'm in a Ferrari right now, how is that? It's not worse off for anybody, because the guy that works at the Ferrari factory that designs, he's got a paycheck that he can then go and pay his mortgage and feed his kids and do all of that. The person that actually made the headlights, the person that made the wheels, the person that, the other company that contracts in to make the engine, there's nothing, if anything, having a more expensive car actually does more for the economy and actually helps people.
Yeah, but
yet the old belief is, well, they're taking a resource out, or, the rich
I hear
bastard.
what you're saying, but, Ferrari isn't a particularly good example, because I know a lot of really miserable people that drive Ferraris. Driving a Ferrari is not going to make you happy.
No, it's definitely not going to make you happy.
And by the way, and here's the thing. If you love to collect Ferraris, you like to drive, that's great. I'll show you how to get a Ferrari. Making money is easy. It's really, really easy. What's harder, though, is fulfillment.
Yeah.
Money's just a part of the equation. So here's the way it is. You see things better than they are, make them that way. It requires 4 things, and here, I'll tell you what they are. I'm not going to hold it back. Number 1 is vision.
Yep.
The ability to create a clear and compelling vision for the future. And the way you do that is you actually, when you set a goal, you have to step into that goal and start to visualize it. You got to taste it, touch it, feel it, literally, really internalize it. Say, how would this world be? It's not just about when I get to there, then I'll be rich, or I get to there, I'll own a business. What's my world going to be like? How it's going to impact the people that I love? My parents, my children, how much time I see. People have a misconception. If I make money, I'll have less time for my family. Bullshit. When you make money, you have more time for your family. You secure the future of your family, future of your grandchildren. When I became wealthy, really wealthy, in the brokerage firm, which I'll get to later, and lost everything, which I did and I deserved to, because I made some fundamental mistakes, which I'll go through too. My parents, who are now 77 and 78 years old, still alive, they became wealthy because of me. And they're still wealthy, and they struggled their entire lives. So when you become wealthy, it's not so much what you can do for yourself, what you can do for other people. That's where the fulfillment and the joy comes into it. So number one is the vision, right? And if you look back at it, if you want any confirmation, look at a Gandhi. Right? He survived hunger strikes and united a country, not because he had a goal for a free India. He had a vision of a free India. Nelson Mandela, all those years in jail, a vision.
Yeah.
Richard Branson, who's a friend of mine, who I know he sponsors me, my speaking tour. He's like a visionary. Bill Gates, they're all visionaries. And the best example, considering we're in Hollywood, is a guy like James Cameron. Now, here's the trap. James Cameron is probably the greatest visionary of all time in filmmaking. Would you agree?
Yeah,
he was interviewed on Diane Sawyer, and they asked him a question of, what do you owe your success to? And what he said was this: I set really, really high goals. So even if I fall short, I'm still doing great. And people thought that was pretty profound, and I actually believe in that too. It's not true though. See, what's happening is this: James Cameron is not a goal setter. He's a visionary. He just doesn't realize because he's running unconscious strategy himself. If I said to James Cameron, was it really just the goals, or do you have vision for Avatar? He'd say, oh, of course I will. And he'd get all excited and he'd tell you how nothing was going to stop him from making this movie. The fact that it took 10 years and ran $200 million over budget and he put money in himself, that's not what goal setters do. Goal setters will set a goal, gets tough, and they abandon it. And I can't overemphasize that distinction. That's number one, is vision. Second part is the ability to manage your state, the way you feel in the moment, your emotional, your physiological state. And that is the key, bar none, the most important distinction in life. Because what that does, it allows you to access the resources that you have. If you're in an angry, pissed off, negative, unresourceful state, you can't do anything well. You've had one of those days, for instance, where everything you're doing, you're like, I can't believe I said that, I can't believe I did that, I'm such a fool, right? You had that day? We've all had that day.
Yeah.
Next day, similar situation, you're like, wow, that was me. I did a really great job, right? You were perfect. So one day you're brilliant. Next day, same situation, you're brutal. That's not talent. That's not ability. That's the state that you're in. So the key to success is not just to have your vision, but to be able to manage the way you feel in the moment. Now, if you're a parent, what's the most resourceful state? Patience. If you're a businessman looking to make money on Wall Street, it's probably certainty or courage, because fear is the worst emotion of all for being a trader on Wall Street. So every business has different states that you need to master. Now, in most businesses, in matters of wealth, there's three states that you need to master to be able to trigger at a moment's notice. And it's easy to do once you learn how, which is what I teach people, okay? And number one is certainty, to be certain about what you're doing. The second one is clarity. To be clear, not to be overwhelmed, which the opposite would be overwhelmed. And the third is courage, is to have a conviction, to know that you might not be right all the time, but you're not going to let fear stop you. Because if there's one distinction that between the wealthy people of the world and the poor people of the world, is that wealthy people act in the face of fear, while poor people run away from fear.
Agreed.
Okay, so it's state management is number two. And what I do is I have this high impact process that really show people how to manage their state. Not like, oh, I'm going to manage, but I'm talking to a razor's edge.
Yeah.
Not all day long, because it's not about perfectionism, it's about progression.
Yeah.
You get it? You want to be in progress, not perfection.
Yeah.
That's the second thing. The third thing is your beliefs. And you mentioned the word beliefs before, and people throw that word around a lot. And it's a buzzword for self-development, but here's the bottom line with beliefs. They act like governors on a car. You brought up a Ferrari, let's use a Ferrari. A limiting belief is like putting a governor on the engine of a Ferrari. The Ferrari can go 240 miles an hour. It has 550 horsepower, 4 valves per cylinder, 12 cylinders. But if there's that governor not letting the gas go through, you ain't going over 55.
Yep.
That's what a limiting belief does. It stops you from charging forward when you should and causes you to move back when you shouldn't. And we all have them.
Agreed.
And they started getting inserted in our heads when we're yay big. We were all unstoppable on day one. And then came day two. when our parents started spoon feeding us limiting beliefs. Sometimes, they meant well, they just didn't know, because, one of the things that I'm a big believer in is that we were never given our owner's manual. Our brain's an immensely powerful computer, and this is known by pretty much everybody in the self-development world. Some of the top people, Dr. Richard Bandler, who I trained with, one of my mentors and a brilliant guy. And the first thing he said to me is, you never got your owner's manual, Jordan. And because of that, you don't realize that the world around you, that you take it as reality, it's really not. It's subjective. The reality I'm looking at is just subjective. I can interpret things how I want. I can have the beliefs that empower me, and I can shed the beliefs that disempower me. So the first thing I do when I meet somebody, when I coach really wealthy people, some stars in Hollywood, the first thing I do is go through what their limiting beliefs are.
Yep.
And you got to root them out, and it's not difficult. You can't just root them out. You got to replace them with empowering beliefs, which is typically the opposite belief. Right now, what I was doing at my brokerage firm, interestingly enough, getting back to that, is each day at my firm, if you read the book, I gave 2 meetings: the morning meeting and the afternoon meeting.
Yep.
And in the meetings, I was actually running this strategy. I had them visualizing their success. I would talk about the life. Yep. Now, the average kid that came to work for me was about as smart as a box of rocks. They were. They're like, none of the kids went to college, okay? They were not the lucky sperm club members. It wasn't the deep end of the gene pool or anything like that at all.
Yep.
These were the forgotten. These are my people, right?
Yep.
They came to me, they thought to be working in pizzerias. And the first thing I said to them was this: the moment you walk through this store, everything in the past falls off.
Yep.
You sit behind this desk, you say the words I teach you, you become as powerful as the most powerful CEO in America. What am I doing? I'm breaking a limiting belief.
Agreed.
You get that? And I didn't know.
And you didn't know that you were doing that at the time.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
I was just saying, it's like I got riled up myself, and I saw these kids, and I wanted to help them,
Yeah.
and I knew what they needed to hear, because they grew up in households where they weren't told they were worthy of greatness. They weren't told they had the ability to be successful. Every human being, I can tell you something. I give seminars. I give 2-day seminars, right? And you can't believe the dramatic changes in people in just 2 days. And it's not that I'm a guru. It's like I'm just a guy with a unique set of skills that I've honed over 27 years of doing this, and I know there's these basic trigger mechanisms in people, and when you give them, it empowers them, and then they go off and they run, and they go for it, and they realize all of a sudden they're capable of things they never thought they were capable of, and it's to see that, that's what gets me going in my life. And
Yeah.
it happened back then with the kids at Stratton.
But see, this was what fascinated me, was like I was reading this book, and all of that you've said was just resonating with me. I love the morning meetings. I love the success. I loved all of those things. And a little bit about me: I left school when I was 14 years old. I went out and hustled. I washed cars instead of selling ice. I started a company. I was running seminars for teenagers. I got involved with a lot of the seminar presenters, a lot of people that you've worked with. And what happened was I was doing very well, and I was sitting on a private jet with a very wealthy businessman who was doing seminars, and he spoke an incredible game, just like you spoke. And something didn't feel right. There was something there. There was something amiss. And he's now serving time in jail for fraud. And that's where this book for me was like, wow, this is, I was lucky because he fell in front of me. And so I was able to, it was always like all of a sudden he popped up on my shoulder and was like, whenever there was a deal or whenever there was, because when you get into personal development and NLP and all of those things is a lot like a knife. You can use it to like make it, to use it to make a meal.
Listen, NLP and all, listen, Dr. Bandler's a friend of mine. He's fabulous. And what Dr. Bandler did for me, and the reason I went to see Dr. Bandler is very simple. Look, this book, right? It's 535 pages.
Yeah.
I think it's like $16 in the bookstore, maybe $1 cheaper on Amazon. That's a good book, right?
Yeah.
And in this
book.
in this book, there's a lot of wacky stuff.
Yeah.
Drug use, hookers, like I'm not proud of that. Just I made some huge mistakes, and I'll get into those. So that's important too.
Yeah.
Very important. What to avoid to do is not just what to do, what to avoid to do. Right? So.
Because someone has to go ahead.
But listen, embedded in this book is the secret for success and failure. It's in here.
Agreed.
Buried within 500. So if
it's an entertaining read.
No, but imagine if I could go in this book and highlight in red all the stuff, just success, blue, fail. How much would that book be worth? A lot of money, right? Probably $50, $100, $1,000 to have the secret to success, right?
Yeah.
That's what the book is. The problem is that sometimes when people read the book, they get so caught up in the story, they don't get the message. Because it's a funny book, because it's my insanity, and now you're one of the people that got the message. So what I
no, but I had to put it down and go, like I literally had to put it down and go,
Yeah.
I think I need to join AA, or I think I
Right,
need to
it's
go
overwhelming.
check into
I
drug
get it.
rehab,
I get it.
and I
Listen,
haven't done any of the
listen,
drugs.
Marty-
Just purely reading it.
Marty Scorsese's directing the movie,
Yep.
right? You know, he took on this movie, and he's been around some
Yeah,
people.
he's been-
It's like, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen, because it's nutty.
It's so
that-
nutty.
I get that. And what
Can we,
happened?
speaking of nutty, just
Yeah.
to make it a little bit more fun, is can you tell the boat story?
The boat story. I just told this. You know, I hadn't told it. I told it last night. You know, I meet new friends. They always want to hear the boat story. I'll give you the brief boat story. Okay.
And the reason why I say this is we did have a text come in, and it actually said that it was said in the book, is the boat story 100% real, or has it been embellished for the book?
No, not at all. The boat story is public record. You can go Google it on. If you go back to I think it's July 30th or 27th. No, June 27th, 1997. The boat story is published. Oh, it's a very accurate story. The only thing that it's under embellished.
Yeah.
Simply because what happened was, in a lot of sections in the book were edited down and edited down. Everything in the book is 100% true.
All right, let's do the boat story. But before
Okay,
we go there,
real-
I just wanted to make the point that I was making before
Yeah.
about it, was that the way I see it was that a lot of the personal development, a lot of those things, they really can be used. You're a very good communicator. I would imagine that you use a lot of the NLP skills, for example, to build rapport. And you were doing that stuff way before you even knew what
I
it
don't
was.
use NLP for anything like that at
Right.
all, because I don't. And NLP is showing you what you do automatic. I don't need to think in terms of NLP.
Yes.
I'll use NLP to help somebody else break through a problem they're having, or belief that they can't, that's holding them back. But for me, I don't know. Some people go around, they try to use NLP to get ahead. I don't believe it's made for that at all. And the
But
fact why I went to see Bandler, just so you know, is he took my book. What he did is, it's about modeling.
Yes.
And he said to me, he broke down my success. He goes, and he was the one that said, listen, I'm not going to take credit. He said to me, because you were doing these things, these 4 things that you did, and he distilled down my success to its elements.
Yes.
And that's what it allows me to share it with people, whether it's in 2 hours or in 2 days or in 2 months. I can give people the full, undiluted good, and also tell them what not to do.
And that's what I was going to